Kitty, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Yeah, really excited about this conversation. And I wanna jump right in and start talking about why do you think it's important for Aussie marketers or marketers in the region to actively work to build their visibility on a global scale, especially in companies that the HQ might not be in Australia or even in the region. Why
Mhm.
do you think that's important to actively work on building that visibility?
Well, yeah, sure. It's extremely important in my experience, because often Australia and New Zealand markets are seen as a smaller in size, and our population is little compared to the global context, right? But and so what happened is that often when the global head office they're making decisions, and the actual impact to our local market can be overlooked, and they may not realize and what's the consequence, what's the riddles when it comes to Australia and New Zealand. For example, like product updates or pricing changes, or even go-to-market strategies, and especially when those decisions are driven by those large revenue regions such as China, US, or Europe. Then when it comes to the local market, when we realize, that changes, that has actual and not so positive impact to us in some way, then we act reactively other than proactively.
Mm,
So I say raising that visibility is really, really vital for local markets to be more proactively taking on the decision making, as well as following on the consequential changes or any strategies that we need to adjust, and also have our voice heard by the global team, which could give them the input or even have our say in the decision making aspect. So definitely that's really important. Also giving us the opportunity to educate the global and regional markets in terms of what makes Australia unique, what makes our market unique. And often even Australia and New Zealand seen as a smaller market. Take Australia as the example. We are actually a very high GDP country with quite strong purchasing power, and for any value driven or customer relationship building kind of focused brand, that also means potential higher profit, which means
mm,
even market is smaller, it doesn't mean that the profitability is not there.
yeah.
So it's very important to gain that trust from the global team by raising your visibility to the global and regional counterpart.
And Kitty, what would you say are some of the common mistakes regional marketers do when they're trying to get that visibility?
Uh, will be, I guess, when you're seeing at a local level, or normally when we're talking about regional or global office, a regional office could be somewhere based in APAC, like Shanghai or China or Singapore, or in Europe, or even in the US, where I guess the last thing I would want to do is that just simply crying for lack of resources, or there's not enough budget, and just complaining or simply venting out. That would never go down well. Or you simply just implement everything, just doing the execution part. Because often, if anyone has ever worked in a global organization, that's very common practice where the headquarters they develop major global campaigns or product launches, or have this strategy that they want the local countries to cascade down to local countries and want the local team to go and implement. So simply, if you just copy and paste and implement, normally without a local context, it would probably not perform well, and which means that's also again less trust from the global teams as well. So instead, I'll say if you have a global initiative or you want to raise that visibility of being seen um, by the global team, is that you almost want to approach like a pitch, so like a sales pitch, that you come up with an initiative backed with evidence why this is working in Australia, why this is important to us, and then you propose that to the regional or global teams, and to demonstrate the impact to our local team.
Mm,
And you often find that they really, really willing to listen, and also you get a lot of support, understanding from that perspective. So never complain or whinge anything without a solution or without an alternative sort of option.
You talked about don't whinge about lack of resources. Make sure you kind of you're not just executing. And you said treat it as a sales pitch. Do you have an example where you've done this before?
One of the recent example is about our focus in the mining industry. So we all know how big mining industry it is in Australia, right? And a lot of B2B business probably have a lot more involvement in the mining sector. And globally, in the last 3 or 4 years, we so Henkel is a adhesive company which provide adhesive solutions to the mining industry. That's one of the offerings. But globally, we've been running mass marketing campaigns, with a number of deliverables, different visual and creative designs, which we have been trying to localize and also rolling out on a more mass approach. However, I realized that, after 12 months or so into the market, and I don't really see the return as what I expected. And I feel there's a different approach we need to make. So I propose the idea of ABM, the account-based marketing approach, which we really got attention from our regional office, and our regional marketing head really supported our idea, because so Australia is the first country who came up with this approach, and wanting to be the pilot in the APAC region and leading that space. So it's the second year we've been building this approach, and working hand in hand with our sales team, and looking at really niche and targeted accounts where we can actually get more return in terms of our return. It doesn't really mean a bigger budget, but it's just different approach that when you get asked by the regional global office, or have you done this social media campaign, or how many is your impressions, or what is the advertisement that you've done, but then instead of directly answering those questions, but we actually come up with a different approach to say, hey, this is the approach that we believe that what is more suitable for our country and for our market, and that went out really well.
We previously chatted about this, and I want to dive a little bit deeper. One of the things that you've talked about that is really critical for creating that awareness at the entire company about the region is developing internal advocates.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Uh, yes, absolutely. I think especially for B2B business, when you have your technical team, number one, you have your sales force, number two, they actually are customer facing teams that dealing with customer problems or issues on daily basis. And they definitely should be the brand ambassador of the company. So we work with as a marketing team, we really looking at work with cross-functional teams, and to encourage them become the face of the brand and become the voice of the brand, and communicate with our customers as well. And also from a regional and global perspective, internally, when we have an initiative, and again, like what I mentioned earlier, making sure that you actually get their buy-in before you go and do the approach, and then you get support from not just from budget, but sometimes we have talent from different teams and supporting us on our approach as well. We also had some success with our existing customers as well, which we go co-branded approach, and create a co-branding campaign. It can be big or small. Sometimes it could be just a piece of content. Sometimes it can be a bit longer of a relationship in terms of creating this marketing approach. And that normally go down well, especially when brand focusing on value driven, other than just like transactional sort of service. So we had a success with a customer who manufacture water jet, and they down in Christchurch in New Zealand, and they use Loctite adhesive in their product. and they're really proud of using high quality and product to provide their customer a sense of peace of mind and also to demonstrate the quality of their product. So we worked with their marketing team and we created a customer success story together with their team. And that's a win-win from a branding exposure perspective because they see they're using a really quality product in their product, and we see that how our customer trusted us and have that peace of mind given to them as well. So it's a win-win. And we found this quite often that people are really willing to work with us on some approaches like this.
That's a great story in terms of kind of building advocates. Do you also have an approach for building advocates on the global team about what is happening with ANZ? Or are you kind of, I can't think of a better word, but building alliances with team members at a global scale so that ANZ gets more recognition? Is that something that you kind of implement or you have on your mind when again on the topic of having Australia on the map in the global map? Is that something that you do as well?
Yes, definitely. I think when we are marketers, we not only uh, good. We need to be good at building a relationship between brands and customers and promoting that connection. But we also need to be a relationship builder between your stakeholders and
Mm.
also with different external and external partners as well. So first of all, Shaheen, I think I believe in any company when they have a strong culture and people who genuinely have a growth mindset and at a global and regional level that they actually want to see local teams succeed, right? And they because at the end of the day we're working in one company and we have one goal, and this is one business that we want to achieve success together. And most of the times that global regional offices like the colleagues, they don't sell directly to the customers. They don't have direct connection with local markets. And you will find when you speak up or when you actually share some true insights and they really want to listen, they want to get those local feedback and they see that's really valuable to them as well. So I found this work for me all the time that when you keep them with collaboration and transparency,
Mm.
and you actually get more support than what you actually expect. That worked really well. And for me personally, I think just to be out there, like proactively reaching out to them. So, for example, if you develop something locally, share the content with them and share, or you see something coming down, cascading down, share the feedback with them, as well as giving them some insight of what's happening in Australia, New Zealand. Don't you know, put yourself in this isolated market kind of basket and always keep yourself engaged with different colleagues, and then that normally you get a lot of feedback because when you deliver something, when you produce something and you will cascade down, often that they don't hear that direct feedback. If you
Mm.
then reach out to them and say, hey, I really like this, or this is good, but we could have done this and that, and people really like to listen to that. And with that, you actually build a more you build a longer relationship. And next time which I found, like before they even deliver to a bigger scale, they come to Australia, New Zealand, ask, what do you think? Would that work? Or how is that going to go down?
Are there certain advocates at a global level that you are in constant communication? And by that, I mean, are there certain titles? Is it, VP of marketing for a region that are really key and you try to kind of actively keep them in the loop of what's happening?
Depending on which part of the marketing function that we want to go down. So the titles could be, marketing director or head of marketing for the from a global perspective, which then a lot of big decisions are made from there. But also the team lead under the head of marketing for different functions. For example, we have market and customer activation, so like marketing communication and also market strategy, even product development, and we have a strategic pricing team as well. So those teams, they all quite important to our local market. And I would say there's really a collection of people we really need to stay connected with to be able to get that insight as well as, make a two-way conversation. And also our regional colleagues are very, very important because they are closer to us. So there's depending on different project, sometimes we speak directly with our regional colleagues, and sometimes if it's a global scale, then we go to the global colleagues directly.
I think that's an important point that it's not just the SVP or the
Mm,
RVP of the region that you got to build a strong relationship with. It's a
yes,
collective of people that you
absolutely.
got to kind of keep in the loop of what's happening. I want to talk about industry associations. I know this is a big thing from your side. Can you share some real world examples of how you've leveraged industry associations to kind of tapping into networks that can help you expand the work that you're doing in the region from a marketing perspective?
One of the example I can share is our partnership with Australian Institute of Packaging, so short name is AIP. We partner with them for the last 24 months, and the partnership has been absolutely win-win. Uh, AIP is a respected education hub for packaging professionals across Asia Pacific region. So not just for Australia. We know in the packaging world, sustainability is a top priority for both the institute and also the industry for those professionals, for brands. And we found that that alignment made a perfect fit for what we actually have to offer. But my advice is that when we work with association or industry bodies, we should never, you know, try to lead a conversation with product, with like a, um, definitely not a product push, but rather we approach with shared insights and also with packaging sustainability in this particular case, what trend we have and what common challenges and solutions. And that would lead opportunities that open a door that they see as we bringing value to their member base. And so lately, Henkel has been invited to a number of packaging conferences across the whole Asia Pacific and to talking about sustainability solutions and common challenges, which really resonate with their members a lot. And that not only help us to, showcase or bring awareness about what technology solutions that adhesive solutions that the packaging designers can even adopt, but also support their sustainability goals as well. So, for example, replacing plastic with paper-based material, et cetera, et cetera. So that has given us so much of awareness, exposure, and the return of investment is is very very high, I would say. And then from an AIP perspective, they also see this as way really helping them to deliver what they want their members to feel valued, and also to produce the quality content for their members as well. So that has been
I love
going on
it.
really well.
Was this something that the playbook was written somewhere else and you kind of implemented, or was this something that you've implemented here in the region?
The way, yeah, that started from Australia.
I
So,
love it.
so it was our local team who spotted this opportunity, and we started working with AIP, and then that got expanded into the rest of the APAC. So we were at the Thailand conference and Indonesia and Japan and also Malaysia. So there's a number of platforms that we actually got invited to. So and then I tackled our regional colleagues to say, hey, we actually spotted some opportunities for you here. Please come along. So that is one thing that actually started from Australia, then got expanded into the rest of Asia Pacific.
I love that. I love that. It's the export of Australian marketing team to the rest of the regions. And again, it shows an example of how out of box thinking can deliver results that maybe quote unquote HQ might have not thought about. What is it in the maybe the culture of the company, or what element inside of Henkel enables you and the team to come up with these ideas? And the reason I ask that is because sometimes marketers working for global organizations feel a little bit restricted, or they have handcuffs on in terms of what they can try, and they don't go out of their way to try new things.
First, I want to emphasize that what we have discussed earlier, which is building that trust, building that relationship. When they know who you are and you know who they are, and you already feel you're talking to a colleague other than somewhere, there's a name with an email address that you don't know. So that's an easier approach. Secondly, is that build up those success story from your small wins in the past, that you build that trust by demonstrating your success of the innovation ideas, and as well as your approaches, even something very small, but that's still, that you're building that trust in future. And another thing is very importantly is just don't be afraid. Don't question yourself in terms of maybe they know better than me, or sure they've done heaps of market research because they got millions of budget, but here locally we just have to listen. But actually trust yourself that you work in this country and you know your market better than anyone else. You see day in day out how the sales interact with customers, how the customer, what language they use, and what works, what doesn't. So be confident, and when you think something would work and you have idea, speak up, and do show your innovative approaches. And very often you find people are more willing to listen.
Receptive. Yeah, receptive. So build that
Mhm.
trust and don't be afraid of speaking up. I'm sure a lot of people who work for global companies listen to this and they're like, yeah, I've got to build trust, build advocates inside of the organization. But often what that means is early calls with the US and late calls with the UK. And that goes sometimes against the balance of life and trying to kind of balance work and family and so on and so forth. What are some of the tactics that you've put in place in your life to be able to tackle some of these logistical challenges of quote unquote putting Australia on the map?
It's a hard question. I always say anyone who work for a global organization, like I've been in a global com for probably the majority of my career life. I think there's no perfect solution. Just to be very honest, I wish there was a time turner which we can just wind the turner and then we all of a sudden we're on the same time zone and then we can just check. But unfortunately, I think it's about balancing. It's all about
Mm,
balancing. And I found that the more transparency you share, the more understanding you'll get from your regional global colleagues, and that they also know the time zone challenges that you face. So I have, we have colleagues who, works in UK or Germany, and they actually show up at 7 a.m. their time and to be able to accommodate our time as well. And during daylight savings is even worse. But but I guess it's about how you make your meeting efficient, and also
mm,
how you pick and choose what is most important topics that you must face to face. Then you build that balance. If someone say, "Oh, I can only do 5 to 9," sorry, 9 to 5, then probably global organization is
it's
probably not
hard.
ideal. But then there are times that you have this whole global team be your back and support you on some initiative. Then you feel you're part of the big family. That kind of confidence that you have is nowhere to compare, with other places. So I think it's given and take. I would say, okay, so a few tips and hints is, if you can communicate via email that is efficient enough, then maybe skip the call for once a quarter or something, or keep the meeting short, 30 minutes. Would that be efficient? Keep that short and sharp. And also ask for recordings if it's a big global call and you just can't be there at 1 a.m. in the morning. And then I think recordings are now, really available through Teams and number of platforms, which are wonderful. And you can catch up with feedback and also share your updates afterwards. And also open all the other platforms, such as, even tag them in LinkedIn or via Teams chat. So I guess that's a constant balancing game when you try to balance your personal life and also with your working priorities as well. I also want to say that visibility is earned, it's not assumed. So especially when we're in a market like far down under, and yeah, often people in European or North American markets, they really don't actually see what's happening in Australia. If local marketers like us, we don't speak up, we don't raise the voice, then how would you assume that you get that visibility, right? You need to be proactively reaching out to really earn that visibility and that trust.
I got some rapid fire questions that I want to go through. So let's go. Let's go. First question I have is, what is one resource that has had a fundamental impact on the way you work or live?
I'll go with Mark Ritson with his marketing course. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
currently I'm currently going through it.
he's great. He's been on the podcast and he's an absolute gem. Second question is, if
Mhm.
you could give one piece of advice to B2B marketers, what would it be?
Be a relationship builder, not just between market and your brands and customers, but also with anyone who's in your horizon in terms of, internal, external partners, stakeholders, regional, global colleagues. And you find then resources suddenly is just out there for you to grab. You will
That's
never
great.
be short of resources.
Question three is, who are some of the thought leaders, industry leaders that you follow? You talked about Mark Ritson, but are there anybody else that you keep track of or you read their content often?
I do follow a number of B2B market leaders, and Natalie Chung, who used to be the CMO of EY. I really like her approach. I once attended one of her talks at one of the B2B marketing conference, and she's just so authentic and really down to earth as well. And
He's
also
great.
she share about also all the practical examples that she had, or a story she had, which we can just take away and use, straight away. So I really love.
Natalie's great. Natalie's great. Last question is, what is something that excites you about B2B today?
I would say AI. With AI, I think for B2B marketers, there's so many incredibly, amazing technology or platform invented because of AI, how we can approach, they really change the way of how we work and also change the way we think. And I constantly feel I don't know enough about this space, and there's always so much more for us to learn in terms
Yeah.
of artificial intelligence, how we can incorporate that into what we do every day.
Kitty, this has been an awesome conversation. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.